down on what's going on at C.A.R. So take it away.
Awesome. Well, thank you for that. And I'm really excited to give this update. I don't think I've given this update since we've done these meetings virtually, though I've given the C.A.R. update at various regional meetings in person pre-COVID for probably on and off over the last 10 years or so. So I do have a presentation that I'm going to share. I'm a big believer that visual prompts really help a presentation. So rather than just kind of talk at you, I'm going to show you some things that hopefully tie everything together for you and make things a little bit more clear and make things make a little bit more sense, because this stuff can be really, really dense. And so hopefully this will help aid your understanding of what we're actually doing. And first, though, I'm going to go into a little bit of background information. Hold on as I share my screen here. Hopefully you guys can all see this. And just for full disclosure now, I can only really see myself and like 2 other people. So if you have something to ask, I would just say probably put it in the chat, because I think the chat will pop up. And of course we can do some Q&A at the end as well. But anyway, I kind of want to unlock the mystery of what C.A.R. is for some people, because, you know, we go to these meetings a few times a year and then we give these reports and tell you what we've done. But, you know, I really don't think many of our members really understand, you know, what the C.A.R. Board of Directors is like, what we're doing, who from our association is involved. So I'm going to go through some of that information first, because I think it's really important to know who's representing you in this process. And, you know, if you have a question or an issue that pertains to statewide policy and things like that, then, you know, it's good to know who your peers are that are participating in this process representing you, that you can go to with questions or what have you. So when we talk about the C.A.R. Board of Directors, you know, for context, SAR's Board of Directors has 19 members. C.A.R.'s Board of Directors has about 800 members. So when we have a board meeting, it looks like this rather than, you know, what you think of when you think of a Board of Directors meetings. We have delegates from every association throughout the state, broken up by region. And, you know, we get together to decide things that affect statewide related policy, statewide related real estate transacting, things like that. It's you know, a really important process, especially because, you know, something that affects us here in Sacramento may not affect other regions throughout the state. So, you know, but we all come together and do what's best for the collective group at C.A.R. throughout the state and make policy decisions for our members. So anyway, our Board of Directors looks more like this than what you might think of. And, you know, when I said that SAR has a 19-member Board of Directors, we actually have 22 representatives from Sacramento that attend these meetings on our association's behalf. So again, really important to understand what that all looks like. So pop quiz, and go ahead and put this in the chat. How many local associations are there in the state of California? Does anybody know? Anyone want to guess? Go ahead and throw that in the chat if you think you know. Okay, good guesses, good guesses. Again, this is individual associations, individual local associations. So I see a bunch of guesses. I haven't seen a right answer yet, so I'm gonna go ahead and toggle to the answer. It's 109. There are 109 local associations in our state. So again, you know, here at the Sacramento Association of Realtors, we're one of 109 local associations throughout California. So that's kind of a mind-blowing number. I mean, there are thousands throughout the nation, but here in Sacramento, we have, we ended last year just under 8,300 Realtor members, which is a huge increase. We've increased in size about 50% over the last 10 or so years. But anyway, we're one of 109 local associations here in California. And SAR is part of Region 3. And Region 3 is a very large geographic area comprised of El Dorado County, Nevada County, Placer County, Sacramento, of course, South Tahoe Association, Sutter Yuba Association, Tahoe Sierra Association, and the Yolo County Association. So again, you can think this is a very large geographic area. So when we talk about getting together with our regions, and we caucus with our region. These are the other associations that we caucus with in our region when we get together to talk about issues. And then of course we come together as a board of directors, which is all 58 counties and all of those 109 associations throughout the state. So another pop quiz, how many regions are in California for the California Association of Realtors? Again, go ahead and throw that in the chat. And I will just tell you, obviously there are at least 3 because Sacramento is in region 3, but who wants to guess? How many? All right, I see a bunch of guesses. Again, I haven't seen a right answer yet. So yeah, I'm seeing answers. Again, these are not, I haven't seen a right answer yet. So I'm gonna go ahead and throw it out there. There are 30 regions within California, and some of you guessed 32, and technically I guess that's correct, but there are 2 regions that have been retired that don't actually have any members anymore. So yeah, I guess technically there are 32, but there are 30 regions with C.A.R. directors that actually meet. So, some of those regions got dissolved and the associations within them absorbed by other regions. So anyway, 30 regions within California Association of Realtors. SAR is in region 3. And then pop quiz, spoiler alert, I already gave the answer to this. How many C.A.R. directors are from the Sacramento Association of Realtors? Go ahead, throw that in the chat. Let's see if there's anyone who remembers what I just said. Oh, good, Karen, ding, ding, ding. Okay, Sean, ding, ding, ding. Okay, good, yep, okay, well, everyone's getting that right, which is good. That means you're actually listening to what I'm saying. We have 22. And I'm about to show you who they are. Again, it's really important to know who represents you. So I'm going to go ahead and take you through. So Paula Colombo, this is in alphabetical order, no particular order. Paula Colombo has been a director for as long as I can remember, has held numerous leadership positions at the association. I believe she is what we call a director for life, meaning that she's been around so long and done so many amazing things that she is now basically a perpetual C.A.R. director. So she's an amazing resource if any of you guys know her. Doug Colville, I'm sure that a lot of you know him. He's a past SAR president, as is Paula Colombo actually. He's been a past chair of CREPAC, which is the California Real Estate Political Action Committee. Great guy, Coldwell banker. He attends our regional meetings pretty often when they're in person. I'm not sure if he's on today, but anyway, longtime director. Judy Covington, who is a fairly recent past president at SAR, also a past chair of CREPAC, and just obviously an amazing person, been a C.A.R. director for a long time. Eva Garcia, I don't even know what I can say about Eva. She's such an amazing resource. She's been a director for a long time as well. Just another amazing resource, a member of the executive committee right now, which is, a really high leadership position within the association. And Eva's obviously great. Another Garcia, Franco Garcia, another past president of our association. I'm sure many of you know him as well. Also has held many committee positions and just great. And yet another Garcia, oh my goodness, Rosana Garcia, everyone knows and loves her. She actually is so awesome that the state association has appointed her as a state allocated director. So she is holding that role this year because the state actually appointed her to that position. So that's a really hard type position to get, and she has it and is doing a great job. Randall Hom, I'm sure many of you know him. He's probably on the meeting right now. He's a new C.A.R. director as of this year and already diving right in. So great to have him as a part of the group. Sherry Hunt, who is the current president-elect of SAR, another C.A.R. director. Barb Lebrecht, probably on this meeting as well. She's been a director now for a couple years and also has dived right in. Chris Little, who I'm sure many of you know, past president of SAR, very involved. He's currently actually the chair of the Homeownership Housing Committee at C.A.R., which is a really high position there. Chip O'Neill, again, I'm sure many of you know and love Chip. He's been involved in C.A.R. now for probably 4 or 5 years. Jim Poida, who is a newer face for Sacramento. He's been a C.A.R. director for probably a decade. But recently came to Sacramento from the Bay Area, and we're really excited to have him as a part of our directorship delegation from Sacramento. Denise Ross-Franken, another past president of SAR, probably on this meeting. I'm sure many of you know and love her. And actually talking about Denise for a second, you know, every region has a region chair, and Denise, we're lucky that she is our current regional chair representing our region when the executive committee meets to discuss our region's issues. So Denise is our region chair currently, and of course, many of our SAR directors have been past region chairs as well. Lee Rutledge, again, she's been a C.A.R. director for longer than I can remember, has held many leadership positions and is, you know, a really great resource. Breeze Singh is a newer C.A.R. director this year, has also dived right in. He's, you know, involved in the YPN and a bunch of other stuff, so it's exciting to have him on the team this year. Oh, there's a familiar face. Anyway, just to put my more professional shot up there. I'm a C.A.R. director. I've been for like 12 years, I think. And then Luis Sumter, Better Homes and Gardens. He's been a director now for many years. Kelly Swain, who is also on the executive committee for C.A.R., which, you know, again, is a really high leadership position that we're very, very fortunate actually to have two people on the executive committee from SAR this year, both Eva Garcia and Kelly Swain. So that doesn't happen very often. And obviously Kelly is just our immediate past president now at SAR. And then Paula Swain, we get two Swains for the price of one. Paula Swain, also a past president, also a C.A.R. director. She is actually the chair of the C.A.R. Pro Standards Committee right now, which is, again, a really highly regarded leadership position. And, you know, we all know how important Pro Standards is. Maurice Thomas, he's been a director now for 3 or 4 years, doing great things. Samantha Tove, a new director this year, also SAR's secretary treasurer this year. And last but not least, Linda Wood, past SAR president, and she is also doing great things this year. So, and I think she might even be the vice chair of the of the Standard Forms Advisory Committee. So again, all those forms that come out every year, Linda is on the bleeding edge of all that. So anyway, really cool to have so many amazing people from SAR as a part of this process. So again, if you ever have any questions, these are the people that you want to reach out to. I'm sure that most of you probably know or know of any of these people, many of them. So, you know, definitely reach out if you need to do so. So now I'm going to dive into the C.A.R. report. And, you know, I think typically in the winter meetings, you know, we take slightly fewer actions than we will towards the middle of the year when we're really in the heat of the legislative cycle, but we did do many important things that I will dive into. First though, I want to kind of give you a primer of what types of things we talk about, because I'm going to talk about like 5 action items that we discussed, 5 actions that we took as a board. But the different types of things that we discuss, different statewide issues, I mean, there are many of them. And I see something in the chat. Okay, Tony has just posted the C.A.R. report that I'm about to give. But anyway, that'll be available for you. So the types of things we discuss: property tax, transaction tax, by right zoning and development, the California Environmental Quality Act. I'm sure many of you are familiar with that. It's a tool that's commonly used to block development. We get involved in DRE licensing and regulation. So, you know, most of the new things that, you know, the DRE seeks to do, or different license requirements, test requirements, or education requirements, that kind of thing, you know, typically we discuss those. You know, rent control, funding for affordable housing, pro standards, which I talked about, MLS model rules, you know, the Reimagine Expo, legal defense strategies. I mean, this, you know, I'm not going to read all of these to you here. You can see them on the screen, but I mean, there are many types of statewide issues that we touch. And, you know, I think a lot of realtors kind of go about their day, you know, not really understanding what we do or why we do it. But, you know, a lot of these things, all of these things affect how we do business. And so C.A.R. is really at the forefront of making sure that we have a seat at the table to discuss these issues, because God only knows if the state passes a bill that is harmful to how we do business, it will make doing business for us very difficult. How terrible would it be if, you know, suddenly some bill were passed that, you know, took away the mortgage interest deduction, for example. How awful would that be? And you know what? We have fended off that exact proposal. I don't even know how many consecutive years. And I'm sure most of you go about your day not even knowing that, taking, you know, just knowing that the mortgage interest deduction is available. But let me just tell you, things like that get proposed all the time, and we are extremely good at defending that position. So again, our clients can continue to enjoy things like the mortgage interest deduction without, you know, having to worry about it. So why is my PowerPoint not moving? Okay, so what actions did we take? So the first one is to sponsor legislation that would extend the Uniform Partition of Heirs Property Act to all tenancies in common. So who's an expert in probate law? Anybody? Probably not. I know I do my fair share of probate transactions, but I'm going to do my best to explain what this means, and hopefully it makes sense. So let's just say, for example, that a really nice family has a family farm. A family like this one, they probably have cows and a farmhouse to go with it. And let's say, you know, mom and dad die tragically. And so the 3 adult children inherit the property. And so maybe mom and dad didn't have a trust. You know, how many of our clients think that a will is enough? Well, we all know that it's not. And so then the property goes through probate and what have you. And then the 3 kids inherit the property in equal shares. So if that happens, let's say that, you know, 2 of the kids want to keep their share of the property, but they can't afford to buy the 3rd out. And the 3rd kid says, well, I really just want my payout. So they share their interest in the property. They sell it to somebody else. And then that somebody else decides, well, you know, I want to force the sale of the whole property. And so they can do that by filing a court action that forces an auction. And then, you know, depending on how the auction goes down, they could actually buy the other shares of the property via a process that's forced by the court for a really, really low price. And, you know, a lot of people, especially, you know, rural properties, this disproportionately affects people of color who inherit properties. You know, some unscrupulous investor will acquire this sliver of the interest in the property and then force the auction and then buy the property for way less than it's worth. So this legislation would create a process that makes that way more fair. It would prevent, it wouldn't prevent people from selling their interest, but it would prevent the really unscrupulous potential below market sale and try to preserve the equity for the heirs that you know, inherited the property that still own it. So hopefully that makes sense. Again, if there are any questions, put them in the chat and I will do my best to answer, but basically that's what this legislation would seek to do. So we're going to sponsor legislation that will create that process. All right, next, there's a bill, Assembly Bill 916. What a convenient number, 916. How easy is that to remember? To support AB 916 that would require a local government to ministerially approve a permit request to add a bedroom on an existing single family home or increase the height maximum for accessory dwelling units on parcels where there is an existing multi-family and multi-story building from 16 to 18 feet. So what does this mean, right? There are 3 key pieces to this. The first one is that it requires ministerial approval, which basically means it's the owner's right to do this if they want to. So if I'm gonna, you know, do one of these 2 things, I can go to my planning department if this bill were to pass, and you know, I could add a bedroom to my if I have a 4-bedroom, 3-bathroom house and I want to add a 5th bedroom, it would create a streamlined process to do that. If I want to increase the height maximum for, if I want to have an accessory dwelling unit that is higher than 16 feet, but up to 18 feet, it would provide a process for that. So again, it would create this by right approval process if this legislation were to pass. So the type of height increase is really intended to affect like accessory dwelling units built over a garage like this one. So 2-story buildings as they are now, you can't build a 2-story ADU, from what I understand, under 16 feet. It needs to be more like 17 or 18 feet. So this just again creates a process where an owner could add a unit like this above their garage and actually, conform to code up to that 18-foot mark. So it would allow a structure like this to be constructed, again, by right. And then the other piece of that, it would allow, again, by right, the ability to add a bedroom to an existing single-family home without having to go through a bunch of hoops, to jump through a bunch of hoops in the approval process. I see someone has put something in the chat. What is ministerial approval? Okay, I think I just explained that again. It's just by right. So it means that, you take your plans to the planning department. If you comply with these rules, then the planning department stamps it off, says, cool, you're good to go. And it's an automatic approval that doesn't have to go through a bunch of extra processes. It doesn't have to go to a hearing. It doesn't have to go to the planning commission. So again, ministerial approval means by right. Again, I see something in the chat. What about HOAs that will deny approval? Well, again, I see Chris Little, who is actually the chair of the committee that put this action item forth. It's an over-the-counter process. He says, HOAs that will deny approval, well, HOAs may have different rules, right? So HOAs can actually impose, different standards of what a, they even regulate the type of curtains you can have in your windows in some homeowners associations. So, that doesn't necessarily mean that the HOA will give you architectural approval. It just means that, if you go to the building department, they will give you the stamp of approval. So you may have a separate process that you have to go through with your homeowners association. If you have a property in a homeowners association, they may, have to give this a little extra scrutiny, but it's, again, the public process that you would go through that would have that ministerial approval. Okay. So next action item, to support in conjunction with NAR, existing law that allows for the utilization of all self-directed retirement vehicles to invest in real property. So where this even comes from, and I'm on the Federal Taxation Committee for NAR, and in fact, I'm actually the vice chair this year for the Federal Taxation Committee at NAR. Where this actually comes from is that in some of the Build Back Better stuff that was proposed earlier, in order to do all the amazing things that the government was proposing, of course, you got to find a way to pay for that stuff. And so the federal government was looking for ways to pay for that stuff. So there were all kinds of things that were on the table in order to pay for stuff. So we, NAR took action to, again, just kind of solidify a policy that, we don't want to make any changes to what self-directed retirement vehicles are allowed to do now. So I don't know how many of you guys have ever had a client, or maybe you yourself have a self-directed IRA that you use to invest in real property. You can actually take one of these self-directed IRAs, buy a property in the self-directed IRA. Again, it has to be for investment, and have a home owned by your IRA as part of your retirement. So anyway, there was potentially the proposal in Build Back Better to get rid of that or to change it. And so again, we're just reasserting, NAR was asserting its position that they don't want to change the ability for self-directed retirement vehicles to invest in real property. And then C.A.R. came up behind that and said, yep, we agree. That's a really good idea. I see something in the chat. Yeah, okay, so Carl Carlson, who you all know and love, our store manager at the association, he uses self-directed IRAs to purchase properties. So again, it's a really great vehicle. If you ever have any clients who look to do that, I'd highly recommend that you get educated on how to do that, because there's a very, very specific process you have to follow. But anyway, so C.A.R. in conjunction with NAR support not making any changes to what's already allowed by law. All right, here's another one. To oppose in conjunction with NAR tax law reinforcement policies that would require banks and other financial institutions to provide information to the Internal Revenue Service about inflows or outflows, balances, transactions, transfers, or similar information regarding accounts maintained by such institution, except to the extent such reporting is already required by law. So again, there were several proposals, part of the Build Back Better stuff mostly, to basically give the IRS additional information on the inflows and outflows in accounts. Now, if you deposit $20,000 in cash in your bank account, you're going to have to fill out a little form at the bank where, you know, they want to know, you know, you're going to have to basically inform the IRS that you're making a big deposit like that. So what was potentially proposed before, which again, NAR is just reasserting that they don't want to make any changes to that, right? If you make a cash deposit of like more than $10,000 or you make some large deposits, you know, the IRS will already potentially have insight into that information. But they wanted to make the aggregate number something like $600. So any aggregate transactions in or out of your account for an aggregate amount of $600, they wanted the ability to, you know, have transactional records of that inflow and outflow. And clearly, I mean, I'm sure nobody wants the IRS taking a harder look at their banking information than what's already available. I see another comment, 10,000 is the starting dollar point for bank deposits to require IRS paperwork. Exactly. So, you know, good point, Scott. So basically, though, this would have created, you know, just a lot more information available to the IRS. And, you know, how many of you guys get commission checks that well exceed $600 or even $10,000? So we just don't need to give the IRS any more scrutiny. The other thing, it's, you know, inflows, outflows, balances, transactions. You know, if you're a brokerage that takes in a commission check and then pays out to your agents, you know, there's this constant inflow and outflow. It's just not a great thing to allow the IRS any more, you know, license to take a look at your financial information. So again, NAR asserts that they don't want any changes to what's already allowed, and C.A.R. says, yep, that's a good idea. We're going to go ahead and toe that line as well. Here's a fun one, and this is the last action item, and if Kelly Swain is on the call, I may call on her to explain this, but you've probably seen in the news lately, and if you watch TV, I mean, there are commercials that you know, are talking about, you know, all the changes to the rooftop solar stuff. So the California Public Utilities Commission proposed some regulation entitled Net Energy Metering 3.0. And these regulations would have made some significant changes to how people who put rooftop solar on their own roofs, on their, you know, on their residences, how they get reimbursed for that excess energy that they generate. And then it would have added some additional costs and a bunch of other stuff. I mean, of course, you can imagine that anyone who has rooftop solar got out their torches and pitchforks and wanted to, you know, obviously, you know, not get paid less for generating that excess energy, and didn't want to pay, you know, a grid fee and all these other things. I see a bunch of comments in the chat here. And yeah, Chris Little just posted that the PUC actually pulled this last Friday. So C.A.R. decided to join a coalition that, you know, among many organizations, this is proposed by the Solar Energy Industries Association, the SEIA. And that's a coalition of many organizations, basically looking to propose some kind of middle ground. And so the middle ground bullets are here. So apply the regulations to new contracts, require the utilities to pay the customers a step down on the retail rate for energy put back into the system. So again, you know, something that tapers, not just like this dramatic, you know, 25% of what was previously paid by the utility companies. It would have been a dramatic difference. So this proposes a step down. There's a grid access charge that would have been charged monthly to people with rooftop solar. I think the average cost of that would have been something like $40 a month for the privilege of having rooftop solar. Kind of ridiculous. And then moderately extends the projected payback period of a solar system on your roof from 7 years to a period of 7.5 to 11 years, depending on how you put that solar on your roof. So hopefully that makes sense. You know, again, there were people on all sides of this, both people who were for this California Public Utilities Commission regulation, people who were against the new regulations, and the way that the regulatory process moves. I mean, these regulations come out, there's a comment period. You know, it's not like it's something like a piece of legislation that we can just go in and say like, well, we don't like this line, let's amend it. You know, the regulation doesn't move in that way. So, you know, joining a coalition like this was definitely the thing that made the most sense in order for our voices to be heard, to not have this just completely wholesale change, rooftop solar generators system of payment and recoupment and all that stuff look like. So hopefully that makes sense. But again, got pulled. So this is going to get pulled back. Hopefully when the next round of regulations for this gets reproposed, reintroduced, and there's a new comment period, it will look a lot more favorable and more along these lines. So anyway, hopefully that makes sense. And then lastly, I think it's important to note that C.A.R's CEO, Joel Singer, he retired. His last day was in December. And we hired a new C.A.R. CEO. His name is John Siebri. Here's a picture of John. Great guy. I'm really looking forward to his leadership. He has been involved in real estate organizations for 4 decades. Started off after he got his degree, and he also has a master's degree as well. He worked in Congress. He was a staffer on a committee. Then he went to work for NAR as a lobbyist. Then he went to work for the Florida State Association of Realtors as their chief lobbyist. Then he went to work for the Missouri State Association of Realtors as their CEO. And now we're really, really fortunate to have him as C.A.R. CEO. So I'm really looking forward to what he brings to our association. Brings a wide variety of perspectives, working at all levels of our organization. So I'm really excited that he'll be joining us. And he just started on February 1st. So you may have seen the email from C.A.R. that had like his little welcome video. You should watch it if you haven't. But really relatable guy. I'm really looking forward to getting to know him more. So anyway, any questions? I know that was a lot of information, and I do want to give a shameless plug. I know Nan already plugged this earlier, but you should sign up for C.A.R.'s virtual legislative day. It's coming up on March 2nd. It's free, which is very exciting. And basically, we're putting together a program that will allow us to virtually meet with our legislators from the comfort of our own home, and again, talk about a lot of these issues that we deal with that affect real estate. It's really important that we keep these great relationships with our legislators, with our elected officials, and make sure that they understand our issues, so that when some legislator proposes something that wildly would disrupt our business, we've already educated them as to why it's a bad idea. And so this is a really great window into that process. So I would encourage you all to participate. Here's the link. I know the link was made available earlier as well, but here's the link. And if there are any questions, I'm going to stop my screen share. If there are any questions, I'm happy to answer them. Okay, I did such a fantastic job that nobody has any questions. Oh, okay, I'm seeing heads nod. That's great. Well, if you have any questions, you can always reach out to me or any of the 22 Sacramento-based C.A.R. directors that we have. Again, they're all super knowledgeable. They will all be able to answer your questions. And what we do at our state level is so important. It keeps us all in business. And I appreciate your time and attention today. We have 100 participants, which I think is really great. So hopefully you guys all got something out of this presentation. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Erin. That was really, really great information. Pretty thorough. And it was great to see pictures and kind of put faces to names of the directors as well. So awesome.